My opening statement is, AJ, do you have any questions? AJ from the Independent.
Hello, AJ.
From the Independent.
How'd you start your morning off today? Did you have breakfast? What'd you do?
Fantastic question.
Yeah.
Let's talk about real stuff. I have a men's group, and I spent an hour with the men's group this morning, which was fantastic. Went home, got ready for the day, did my little to-do list, spent time with Carrie, and here I am. Worked on practice, watched some film, of course, in between.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks for asking.
Start to the day. Yeah, those are important things.
The most important.
I didn't prepare anything else.
Thank you, AJ. Thank you, AJ. Thank you.
Obviously, you start off with a couple of top 10 teams in Los Angeles, and then you come home to play an Arizona team, which had one of the upsets of the weekend, last weekend. When you look at this Wildcat team, what do you see coming to Corvallis Friday night?
Yeah, and almost another one, right? I mean, they lost to Colorado. They were up 8 in that game, early fourth quarter, and got beat by 1, and then beat Utah in overtime by 1 as well. And just typical Arizona team, just plays super hard, disruptive, great in the open court, gritty and tough. I was impressed by the way they drove the ball, attacked, interior passing, and then they hit timely perimeter shots. And Puello, I've been saying that Puello is the best player on that team for the last 3 years. I mean, AJ's probably heard me say that. I don't care about the players that are hyped. The big Puello is the key to that team. She makes every big play for them, is maybe the most underrated defender in our league. And so, they've got a really nice nucleus. Their young players are playing well, and so it's just a good basketball team that proved that this past weekend.
Looking back at the last weekend, if you could, is there one thing the team could have done different that might have led to a different result in either or both of those games?
Make more shots is one thing we could have done, and I think that will come. We played against two, very athletic teams that closed gaps so quickly and impacted shots. Their closeouts were fantastic, both games, all weekend. And so the pace that they compete at, that was next level for us. We hadn't seen that yet, not consistently anyway. I would say overall, looking back, both offensively and defensively, there was a level of execution that we have to get to that we were just a step slow too often, just a few too many mistakes, which is very encouraging because they're all correctable. They're all just with experience and time. But we were thrown to the wolves, this past weekend, and I love the way we competed. We were there. We got UCLA game, got to 6 or 5 or 6, with a couple minutes to go. Gave ourselves a chance after, they separated in that third quarter. And certainly the USC game was one we absolutely could have won. And so overall, encouraged, disappointed for sure that we couldn't find a way, but encouraged by what's to come and the progress we'll see this week.
Obviously, 2 tough losses to open up the conference play there on the road for you guys, but what's the energy around this team right now, and how do you feel about your prospects of continuing to maintain the win streak at home?
Well, there's nothing easy in this league, and so you're going to have to compete and play great every night, any night in the conference. And so I'll speak to, we can't predict wins and losses, but I will speak to the team though, and like you said, the energy level. I asked them yesterday first time we were back together, before film yesterday, what their just base emotion was off the weekend. I just had them write out one adjective, and most of them said encouraged, said motivated, hungry, those types of things. Then we watched film, and then I had them write another word. Okay, now after you've watched film, and it was more motivated. Some were pissed. Some said, angry, because we could tell we were that close, and we probably should have got at least one win. Probably. That's, of course, if you watch film, you could look at shots we missed, that type of thing, Every team could do that. But there was a lot of reason for optimism, after watching. So then we had a great practice, went back to work, and so the energy and the spirit is very high and what a coach would hope.
So the team's averaging around 14 turnovers a game right now. How do you get those numbers down?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because that subject or that category has gone through waves a little bit. We started the year not turning it over much. Then we went through a phase in December where it felt like we relaxed a little bit. We got a little bit careless. We were certainly that in our Morgan State game right after Christmas, and then we had 5 against Oregon, in a 40-minute game as a team. Then you go down to those 2 places, and I think we had 14 both nights, is what I want to say. Well, a few years ago, we had 27 at USC. Coach Aaliyah Goodman was on that team and would tell you that she remembers running for each of them or something, something like that. And so, so 14 is not an overwhelmingly extreme number when you're going to LA. Would I like to be 10 or fewer? Yes. So I think the experience, the decision-making that I mentioned previously, that will get better and better as we grow. We are young. I mean, we've got a freshman point guard out there playing against veteran guards in both of those venues, holding her own. We ran several things wrong. There were times we were out of sorts, and you got to give our opponents a lot of credit for that. But I think with experience and now, especially those 2 experiences, I think now it's like settle down and let's just execute. I don't know how much more will come out of certainly Colorado pressures like crazy, certainly Arizona pressures like crazy. We know that. Washington State can amp up pressure. Washington's getting after you. I mean, every night, Cal can get after you, and of course, you just go down the list. But SC and UCLA, they pressure as much as anybody, especially UCLA, right? And so on their home floor, I was actually more pleased than displeased in that category this past weekend, but it will get better.
Defensively against USC, you had Juju Watkins and kind of like primarily defending her. Is there any defensive changes going against a team that's not primarily like one person?
Well, back to normal a little bit, in that it was fun to prepare for her, just because she's not only is she a great player, she's such a massive part of their offense. It's rare to have a player that you play against shoot 33 times in a game. That's not common. It's hard to keep the ball out of her hands, and so, it needs to be, 1-on-5 when she touches it, and what makes them good is they have more than her, of course. But I really liked our defensive effort and our awareness against her, especially in stretches. She scored 28, I think, but it took her 33 shots. I feel pretty good about that. We held them to 56. Both teams were held to their lowest point total of the year, and you could ask the team, we made defensive mistakes. It could have been better than that. And so now it's get back to business. But I think every team that we face, watching Arizona now, they've got things that they do that cause problems that we are going to have to really be disciplined, and we're going to have to really execute well to defend. Puello is one of them. Nobody's really probably talking about her. You talk about Gilbert, you talk about, Cunningham on the inside and different things. But, there's different scenarios and tendencies that they get into in certain situations in games where you better be ready for that. So from Juju, then you go to Betts and Osborne, and give me a break, and then you go, oh, here comes Arizona, and so it's just fun to get ready for all of it. And by the end, that's what I'd tell you. Once you go through this, by the end, you're ready for anything. So anybody that can make it to the postseason, you're prepared just because of that. So a little bit back to business.
And then coming off the 2 losses, do you think there's a different mentality with the team coming off the first 2 losses of the season for the Arizona game?
Yeah, I think there's just an edge now. In a way, just you're reminded of what true competition is and what it's like, and we felt kind of back to the wall at halftime against Oregon, right? Came out and played great and just settled in and played. I thought we were ready to play both games down there. We were very competitive. most of the game in both those games. I would say we played 7 of 8 good quarters, you know, in LA. And so now the team gets it, and they want to win. They're hyper competitive, and so I don't think there's going to be any reason to feel out the game Friday night. I think they understand what it takes, and they're ready to rise to it. So I think we're in the best place we can be.
Hey, Coach, since I got set up a little bit late, I'll only ask you one today.
Whatever you want.
Specifically, you mentioned how, you know, your young players got to go through some of that for the first time. Just after getting the first true dose of what this conference is, what specifically do you think your freshmen took out of that, and what did they learn over the weekend?
Yeah, confidence. I think confidence. You know, we paid for mistakes down there. Like every mistake we made, we paid for. That's how it felt anyway. Every missed box out, they got the O board. Every bad angle, they made us pay. You know, and so the level of attention to detail that it truly takes, I mean, that was what I was harping on yesterday and just pleading for. Like these things we've been saying as a coaching staff since October, now our voice just got louder in their minds, and it's not us, it's the situation, you know. So now it's like, okay, I guess that really does matter. Yes, that really does matter. You have to put that player on your back on a box out, and you have to compete with it. Every ounce of athleticism you have to go get it, you know. And so I think, A, we were right there. B, we could be so much better, you know. And so I think confidence, you know, the way Dom finished the game, you know, at UCLA, that fourth quarter that she had gives her a ton of confidence going forward, which is very helpful for us. And, you know, Kennedy played very good in that game. Her defense was fantastic, you know, and Dono carried the load at the 1 in both games. And so I thought it was a very impressive performance down there for all 3. You know, now let's just keep it going, learn and move on, and figure out how to make this game easier and easier instead of harder.
Me again. I just kind of want to paint more of a picture about that film session that you guys had. You mentioned that they were writing down words. Was that like you had them all blankly writing down, throwing in a hat? Just tell me a little bit more about that meeting. I'd love to know.
Yeah, note card, put the letter B on one side and letter A on the other side. Everybody has A up. I'm like, no, flip that over. On the B side, you know, is before. They didn't know that, but that's the B is for before and the A is for after. So before film, how do you feel? After film, how do you feel? I just wanted to know. And that helps me, you know, and so that's not something that's common, but it's just something I like to be creative and find ways to help them think, bottom line. And it helps me if I know what they think, you know. So no names were on it. It was all anonymous. And then at the end I had AJ collect them, give them to me, and you know, then off to practice we went, you know, after we watched the way we scored, the way they scored on us, how our turnovers happened. You know, I think those categories really move us forward, you know, and then we'll add on to that today in film. But that's a secret, though.
Sure. How long of a film session is that? Did you watch the full game?
No, it's all clipped. It's just how did we score one after another, and it's clipped just with enough context so you can know where that shot came from. You know, and you know, it's fun. It's encouraging. And some of those clips will be, you know, with the ball in the backcourt because the context that I want them to see and speak to needs more. And some are just catch score, you know.
So like
20-ish, 20 to 30 minutes.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
All right, all good? All right, thanks, Scott.
You bet. Thank you, guys.
Players do 5-4 guy.
Yeah, I'll start. Hi, AJ. I'm Scott from The Independent. And I'm curious that if you had a sign up over your door, what would that sign say?
A sign up over my door.
Yeah, like one where you paint it and put it up there.
Well, I'm only thinking of it because you just did the independent thing, but I have the Believe sign up on my locker, so I just think of that, like the Ted Lasso Believe.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you, AJ.
Thank you.
Since Coach was talking about that film session, what was your feeling before and after film? How did you fill the card out?
Mine was angry. You know, that's a tough weekend, like he said, and I had a major role in playing against Juju and USC, so that was tough for me to, you know, allow her to get that much. You know, I put a lot of pride in myself on my defensive abilities, so that was definitely a tough matchup. I mean, the whole weekend was tough. And knowing that we were so close to winning those games against two top 10 teams at like this point in the season was super frustrating that we were that close. But afterwards, I was definitely very motivated. You know, seeing how we didn't take any bad shots. We missed great shots. Like it was just all unlucky almost. And knowing that we were just a couple made shots away from beating some of the best teams in the country is like super motivating.
We talk about teams having to learn how to win. Do you think that's something that this team, a process that this team is in the middle of, is learning how to close out those kinds of close games?
Yeah, I think we learned a lot from that last season as well. You know, a lot of the vets last year, we lost a lot of close games, and I think some of us still have a bad taste in our mouth from those close games. We lost most of our games between 2 and 5 points. Like we didn't forget those games, and so starting off the season, you know, undefeated, and then getting to this weekend was tough, but we're not going to let that happen again. You know, we're ready to fight and win the rest.
Arizona Friday night. What do you see when you look at the tape and what your responsibilities are on Friday night?
Mm-hmm. Well, this last weekend was a good test to that. You know, Arizona, like he said, is, you know, going to pressure us. They're going to be aggressive on the defensive end, and I think these last two schools prepared us a lot. You know, again, we have a freshman point guard, a lot of, you know, freshman players that are getting big minutes, so having those new players and the freshmen, you'll get used to this level of, you know, aggressiveness and competitiveness is huge. So I'm glad we got those experiences, and it's going to prepare us really well for Arizona.
Against USC, you guys were right there. The shots just didn't go down with you. What was the feeling immediately post-game like after you have a couple opportunities there at the end and you just don't watch it going?
It's definitely frustrating. You know, all of us are thinking about what we could have done, what we should have done. I think we go inwards a little bit, but we're super close and help each other, you know, look outwards. Like, we're all very motivating. And, you know, I realize that, like, Reagan might be mad she missed a layup, and I might be mad I missed a layup too, but we see that in each other and lift each other up a lot, and it helps to, you know, I know these people have my back and I have theirs.
Adding on to, you know, everyone having your back, how do you feel as a team you guys are, like, really connected on and off the court?
Yeah, we're super connected. These are, you know, my best friends, and, you know, I get to see them every day for hours, and we get to play a game that we love. So, you know, even these tough games, it's easy to get back in the gym and work and be motivated like this because we're so close and are ready, you know, to play again.
Anybody else? All right, thanks, Adrian.
Thanks, guys. Go Beavs.